Charlie Kirk's death, the reverberations touch President Trump's security, the U.S. Capitol, DNC headquarters, and some HBCU campuses, while the manhunt continues. People who knew Kirk best, Jack Posobiec and Harrison Fields, offer their remembrances. GOP Senator John Curtis on Utah's pain and the risks of extremism. We meet three college students influenced and motivated by Kirk, two ardent supporters now grieving, and one opponent who nevertheless admired Kirk's methods. Hello, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Welcome to the Takeout. 24 years ago today, America's sense of security was shattered by coordinated terrorist attacks in New York and Washington. Every year since that monstrous day, we as a country have paused to say, never forget. For millions of Americans, September 10th, 2025 will be a day they will never forget, a moment when a political figure they admired and were inspired by was murdered in public, doing nothing more provocative than engaging in public debate on a university campus amid a sun-splashed day in one of the most beautiful parts of the great American West. That crime encroached on President Trump's security arrangements today. An open-air speech was moved to a protected space inside the Pentagon. Members of Congress canceled future public events. There was a bomb scare at the Democratic National Committee headquarters. Several historically black colleges and universities were locked down due to threats, others closed as a precaution. There were, of course, heartfelt calls for unity, but the air remained and remains tense with fear of what may happen next, not unlike the day and days after 9/11. We are today, as we were then, a shocked and shaken nation, though for decidedly different reasons. And at this hour, the hunt for Kirk's assassin continues, leaving all manner of questions unanswered. A law enforcement press conference scheduled for this afternoon has been indefinitely delayed, suggesting a break may soon come. With what we know now, we turn to Andres Gutierrez, who joins us from Orem, Utah. Andres, what can you tell us about the latest?
Well, Major, there is indeed a massive dragnet out here in the state of Utah searching for this gunman. Yesterday, the governor, Spencer Cox, called this a political assassination, and today, state and federal law enforcement made it clear that this was a targeted attack. Yesterday, they questioned two individuals, but those individuals were cleared. Investigators today say they believe they have recovered the murder weapon used in this assassination. It is a imported Mauser bolt-action rifle. That is a hunting gun that is typically used to hunt deer. It only fires a single shot at a time, and police say they found it near a wooded area near the campus here at Utah Valley University. It was wrapped in a towel. They also found a shoe print and even a palm print, and those are now being tested for DNA as well as for fingerprints. We are also learning about how all of this unfolded. Just 8 minutes before noon yesterday, the suspect took stairs to a rooftop of a building, the Lowe Center here, and ended up taking a sniper's position about 400 yards away from where Mr. Kirk was speaking, and fired that single shot. And then, according to law enforcement, he did a little bit of parkour. He ended up going to the opposite side of the building, the rooftop, and then jumping off of it and running into a nearby neighborhood. And so right now, investigators say that they have been canvassing that neighborhood, looking for any Ring doorbell or other home security footage that may lead them to get a better sense of who this individual is. And they are asking for the public's help. In fact, they have now offered a $100,000 reward, putting some cash to this to try and compel some people to come forward and give this guy up so he can be brought to justice.
Andres, we've also learned very recently that the U.S. Marshals Service has joined the manhunt, and there were releases from authorities earlier today of images of the suspected gunman. True?
Absolutely, and the FBI have released those two surveillance images that have gone viral, just like those graphic images of Mr. Kirk's death went viral yesterday. The images of the person who allegedly did this also going viral today. It shows a young man, possibly college age, wearing a dark baseball cap, sunglasses, and a black long-sleeve T-shirt. Officials have not released a name. Very likely at this point in the investigation that they do have a name. And so, but again, they are trying to keep some things close to the vest, not to, ruin the integrity of this investigation. But they are telling folks that if you recognize this guy, pick up the phone, do the right thing, give him a call.
Andres Gutierrez with all the details from Orem, Utah. I'm very grateful. Thank you. CBS News national security contributor Samantha Vinograd joins me now. Samantha, we have a lot of details, but we have a lot we don't know. What does it mean to you in particular that the manhunt continues?
Well, we now understand that additional assets have been deployed at the federal level to assist with the manhunt. You just mentioned the U.S. Marshals. The U.S. Marshals are the lead federal agency for fugitive investigations. So we understand the investigation is progressing. What we don't yet know, Major, is whether the threat to the public has been neutralized. Oftentimes in these kinds of situations, if a suspect is still at large, there may still be a threat to the public. And the fact that there hasn't been a press conference to answer that question one way or another could really lead to feelings of unease in the community.
And there is also a sense there in Utah, with the delay of this scheduled press conference, that things may be moving at a rather rapid pace.
Yes, and state and local and federal law enforcement all make individual calls about how regularly to update the public. But the more reliable information that's provided in these kinds of situations to the public, even if it's to say the investigation is ongoing, we don't have a name, but we've found a footprint or we found a handprint or something, can help the public feel like they have access to information and that they're not in the dark.
There is a forensic investigation on the footprint, on the weapon recovered, and also a digital investigation into whatever they may know about this suspect that they have yet to release but are gathering themselves, correct?
Certainly, and we should anticipate that those photos were run through law enforcement data sets and that facial recognition perhaps was not successful in identifying the individual.
Hence the request for the public.
Yes, and that may be because the individual is wearing glasses or because this individual was not or is not known to law enforcement. Now, when you release a photo like that, law enforcement knows that the public may be the best position to provide tips on this individual, especially with the advent of social media, but it also means law enforcement is going to be deluged potentially with false information and false leads. So there's going to be a lot of incoming to law enforcement right now. They're used to dealing with these kinds of situations as they try to get an identity.
Samantha, you have extensive experience, not just with particular places and threats, but the national spectrum on that. And I summarize some of the things that transpired today, all of which create an atmosphere of heightened security and anxiety.
Well, certainly in the aftermath of such a horrific, high-profile, violent event, we are in an even more heightened threat environment. Bad actors of all kinds may feel inspired to act after this kind of incident because of the high-profile nature, the media attention that it's getting, and because they may feel like this kind of incident is becoming normalized in American culture. At the same time, the risk of copycat attacks is higher, as well as potential retaliatory attacks. And law enforcement is certainly on heightened alert. We've seen security officials up the ante around a range of protectees.
And it could be something as an action, which is terrible and menacing, or a phoned-in threat that has nothing behind it, but nevertheless sends people scattering.
Yes, and making false threats is not permissible in this country.
It is a crime.
It is a crime, and they will be investigated. I've dealt with all sorts of bomb threats and hoaxes against college campuses, against officials, and more, and they will be investigated.
Samantha Vinograd, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Aaron Navarro joins me now from the North Lawn of the White House. Aaron, the vice president, as I understand it, traveling to Utah and will be transporting Charlie Kirk's remains to Arizona and has been in close contact with Kirk's family, wife Erica, and 2 children.
That is correct. The vice president, as you mentioned, in Utah, and the body of Charlie Kirk will be on Air Force 2 going back to Phoenix, where Kirk's family is and where the Turning Point USA, that's his organization headquarters, is. We also heard in the past hour from President Trump, who spoke to reporters here on the South Lawn of the White House before he left for New York, where he said that he is concerned for the U.S. and said that a, quote, radical left lunatic is out there. Again, this investigation is still ongoing. On that investigation, President Trump did not get ahead of what we already know, but he said that he does believe that there is progress being made. And the president also told reporters that he had talked to Charlie Kirk's now widowed wife, Erica, saying that she is devastated. Earlier this morning at that Pentagon ceremony that you mentioned at the top of the show that had to get moved from the outside of the Pentagon building to the interior courtyard, President Trump also announced that he would be giving a posthumous Presidential Medal of Honor to Charlie Kirk.
And Aaron, the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, gave an interview today in which she said the White House is putting the final touches on some proposals in the public safety sphere that she said would have some connection to Charlie Kirk's murder.
Yeah, some details we're still looking to hear more from the White House on. But Susie Wiles said in an interview with Scott Jennings on a radio interview that they're working on a comprehensive plan to tackle violence in the United States. Also said that it would be a plan that would stress the importance of free and civil speech. Could be something different than what we're seeing here in Washington, D.C. with the National Guard. She said that President Trump will be talking about that in the coming days. President Trump seemed to allude to at least some part of this last night in a video message he posted on Truth Social, where he said that the administration would go after those who, quote, contributed to this atrocity and other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it. Though, again, we're still waiting to hear more details about the shooter.
Aaron Navarro on the North Lawn of the White House, thank you very much. And the reference that Aaron made to Presidential Medal of Freedom will be given posthumously to Charlie Kirk. Still to come, conservative commentator and friend of Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec, plus America's frightening rise in political violence. Leaders in Washington react to the death of Charlie Kirk and agree with his politics or not. Charlie Kirk was a force among young conservative Americans. I will speak with some of those he influenced. The Takeout returns in 90 seconds. Welcome back to The Takeout. As we mentioned at the top of the program, the manhunt continues for Charlie Kirk's killer. And the political world continues to react to the staggering nature, shocking events around his death. His colleagues and friends, of course, on a separate track, grappling with their own personal loss. Among them is Jack Posobiec. He is a contributor for Turning Point USA and was a very close friend of Charlie's. Jack, let me just say off the top, I'm sorry. I appreciate your time. I'd like you to share with my audience what you want them to know about Charlie.
Well, Major, thanks so much for your kind words and giving me the opportunity to talk about my friend, because, you know, there's the Charlie Kirk that everybody knows. You see him on TikTok, you see him on these debate clips, you see him on these memes, but that's not the only side of Charlie. Charlie is loyal to a fault. Charlie is generous with his time. Charlie is always there anytime, day or night, to help you out with anything. He had a laugh. He had a sense of humor. He was always good-natured. And the idea that someone could take him away so quickly when he was just becoming a father and becoming the husband and the man that he'd always wanted to become is unbelievable. It's completely unbelievable. And, you know, I remember last year after the events of Butler with President Trump, I talked to Charlie about this and my military background and pointed out, I said, you're never going to be able to completely secure these events. And Charlie said, I can't stop. I'm not going to stop.
What was the motivating factor in the end for Charlie? Was it politics or was it something bigger than a political party or a political moment in time?
You know, Charlie was a deeply devout Christian, and this is something that I think in the political space can really get lost. But privately, Charlie and I spoke more about the Bible, about scripture, about theology, more than almost anything else. I think that really was his sole driving factor. His wife, Erica, is incredibly devout. It's something that she talks about and it speaks about all across the country, and I know it's going to be on that faith that she's relying right now.
And Jack, with that perspective, and I know that there are several people in Washington who are part of a text chain that Charlie had with Bible verses on an almost daily basis. if Charlie were with us, and I know he's with you in spirit and many others who admired him, and if he were to, as a thought experiment, try to explain to people what the Bible should tell them about their reaction to this moment, do you believe it would be more Old Testament or more New Testament?
Charlie was a big fan of the Old Testament. Charlie was a deep, deep believer in the Old Testament, and I think he would say that you need to read them both. You need to put them together. But there was a quote he had on his desk that somebody just sent me a picture of that said, it's Micah 6:8. He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God. So be true, be kind, but be just. And justice needs to be done here.
It has been said, Jack, that Charlie was a happy warrior, and that was meant as a compliment. Was he, from your perspective? And if you can think of a way to help illustrate that for my audience to remember, what would that be?
Well, I think that was true. And just a great example of something that happened, really just a couple of weeks ago. I remember Charlie sends me a message. He says, Jack, it looks like I'm going to be on the South Park. I'm going to be in the new South Park episode. I said, what do you mean? And he sent me the press release. And I said, oh, boy, let's strap in. We'll see how this goes. And we saw the episode when it came out and some of the early clips, and he thought it was the funniest thing, and he embraced it completely. And he said he actually made the little picture they made of him as his profile picture online, and he thought it was hilarious. And he was a good sport, and he had a good laugh about everything. And that's just who Charlie was, not Charlie, the man you see in front of the camera, but that was Charlie, my friend.
And very briefly, Jack, he enjoyed, as I gather it and have read, the engagement, the back and forth, and he wasn't intimidated by people who disagreed with him. He actually was kind of energized by that. Do I have that about right?
Oh, if you went to one of these events, he would say every time, if you disagree, come to the front of the line. If you disagree, if you have something that I've said that you disagree with, come to the front of the line, because that's who I want to talk to first. So that was what he went for. He wanted to have that repartee. He wanted to have that debate. He wanted to get into it with people who came from the other side of the aisle or perhaps a different walk of life. And he wanted to connect with them. And I think he really did connect with a lot of people, and I think that's why you saw the movement build around him the way that you did, and the way that we've never seen a conservative be able to do so on campus before.
Jack Posobiec, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts and perspectives very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Still to come, Utah Republican Senator John Curtis joins me right here on The Takeout. Horror, anger, disbelief, that is a fair, by no means comprehensive summary of reactions on Capitol Hill to the death of Charlie Kirk. Earlier today, I spoke with Republican Senator John Curtis about that shooting, which occurred in his home state of Utah. Here's that conversation. Senator, some in my audience may know, but many don't, that before you got involved in Washington-based politics, you were the mayor of Provo, Utah, just south of Orem. Best as you can tell, how is your community doing in the aftermath of this horrific murder?
I would be lying if I said this wasn't super hard on the entire community. This is so unlike the peaceful community where we come from in Utah that it's very difficult on all of us.
Did you, Senator, have any trepidation at all about Charlie Kirk coming to Utah Valley University? He had talked to Senator Mike Lee, your colleague, on a podcast that there were some petitions, some opposition to his arrival. Did you have any notion, did anyone there have any idea that this was not a safe place for this event?
If anybody had asked me, I would have said, go, you will be perfectly fine. Senator Lee and I have been in and out on that campus. We've both spoken there more times than we can count or remember. We're in and out in that community, inside, outside, and it has always felt very, very safe to us.
Senator, how well did you know Charlie Kirk, or if not that well, how familiar were you with his political movement?
Well, I think it'd be hard to live in America and not be familiar with his movement, the enthusiasm, Interestingly, that area right there is one of the youngest areas in the entire United States. When I represented it in the House, it was the youngest congressional district in the United States. The hospital just a few miles away is the highest birth rate per capita hospital. And so it's not unusual for the youth there to be very excited and to be very passionate and very involved in issues.
And this is a question that a lot of people in Washington are asking themselves. How do you feel with your own personal security? Are there conversations within the leadership or the Senate infrastructure broadly about changes that need to be made or different thought patterns that need to be pursued in order to prevent any one single member of the Senate falling victim to any kind of act of violence?
I think it's fair to say we're having those conversations. I had one with one of my colleagues walking over to the Senate floor today. The problem is I don't see a solution, right? There's 100 of us, 435 in the House. We're all over the United States, in and out of busy places, on airplanes, on trains, in parades. I don't want to say it's an occupational hazard, but in many ways, I just don't know how you solve this. And the alternative is also not acceptable, which is that we stay away from people. We need to be with people. We need to be where people are. But I do think we need to figure out, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to think twice next time I'm in the major parade just a few blocks away, right? I think all of us are going to be rethinking some things, and I hope we come up with a way that allows us to stay very, very connected to those we represent.
In his remarks to the nation, the president said that radical left Democrats were directly responsible for this. Are you in agreement with that?
I've always been very clear. I don't think extremes on either side are healthy. And, I think this is a pivotal point for the country. I love the thoughts of Martin Luther King, who gave us an alternative. He said you can drive out hate with hate, or you can drive it out with love. And obviously, you're not going to drive it out with hate. And so for me and those that I influence, I'm always going to be advocating that we try to drive out hate with love.
And is that something that also in the conversations you presume will have with other colleagues going forward? I mean, look, your chamber was having a conversation not too long ago about 2 members of the Minnesota legislature who were killed. And I talked to Tina Smith on this very program, and she said she was going to engage. I know you're one political actor. You're just one voice. Do you feel overwhelmed that you're just one voice? Do you feel hopeless or hopeful?
So that's a hard question, right? On the one hand, of course, I mean, the magnitude is high, but this is what I'm absolutely convinced of. If every person woke up and looked in the mirror in the morning and said, I'm going to do a little bit to heal the frazzled relationships. We've got mothers who won't speak to daughters. We have neighbors that won't speak to neighbors. And if every one of us woke up in the morning and said, I'm just going to do one thing today to put a little bit of balm on that wound, that would be a solution that would change the United States and change the world.
And does that begin, Senator Curtis, with rhetoric from leaders in the political space, or is it more important that it begin, as you just indicated, with individuals who think about politics but are not in the arena?
Yeah, I think the answer is all of the above, yes. I mean, in a perfect world, political leaders, religious leaders, business leaders, everybody with influence would be spreading that message and be good examples. But the good news is I don't think we're dependent on that. I think that we can make this what I would call a grounds-up movement. And in the best of world, it's top-down, it's bottom-up combined. But if not, I think we need to work on bottom-up, and we can change the world.
Senator John Curtis, Republican of Utah, appreciate the time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Still to come, Charlie Kirk helped President Trump return to the White House. His influence among conservatives was vast, and it gained him respect and quite a bit of influence inside that White House. More on that next here on The Takeout. Welcome back. Charlie Kirk never worked in the Trump White House, first term or second term. He didn't need to. He had a lot of connections, spoke with the president frequently, interacted with members of the president's family and his larger political operation, and he influenced things from rhetoric to personnel. Earlier today, I spoke with former White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary Harrison Fields. Here's that conversation. Harrison, a lot of my audience is just getting to get a sense of who Charlie Kirk was. From your vantage point and within the vantage point of the Trump White House, how would you describe his influence and role?
Massive. But beyond the influence, behind the Charlie Kirk conservative activists, we got to boil it down to something more pure, something that you are, that I am, a father, a husband, an American, someone that loved his country, someone who decided to, instead of just talk behind a microphone, decided to do something brave with courage. He said, I'm going to go into the belly of the beast and talk to people that disagree with me. That seems like a foreign concept now, but that's who Charlie Kirk was. And above all the things I just mentioned, he was a Christian. He was a man of deep and profound faith. I was talking earlier today, and I said, you would go to a Turning Point event, you would go in trying to maybe become a conservative, and you left a conservative and also a Christian, because he made sure he spoke about his faith. He was an unapologetic Christian, something that in this day and age, so many people are moving away from. It's taboo to talk about Christianity. It's taboo to talk about Jesus. And he said, no. First and foremost, I'm a Christian. And then what did he do to push younger generations? Get married, have children. I'm a young dad. My daughter's about to be 1. I got married about the same time Charlie got married. This is what it's all about. And at his foundation, he said, take away all the accolades. Take away it all. My most important treasure in life is being a dad and a husband. That's who Charlie Kirk was.
And when you said the word massive in terms of his influence, articulate that for me in a way that goes beyond that adjective.
Yeah. This last election, we saw what we were able to do when it comes to the younger generations, especially younger men. I come from a mixed bag of friends, extremely progressive, extremely conservative, some that are just don't care about politics. The people in the middle used to send me Charlie Kirk's videos. Wow. Do you know this guy? What do you think? This is great. He changed my friends' minds after years of my attempts of trying to change their minds. All they needed to do was listen to Charlie Kirk. He had a level of passion, of honesty and conviction in his words that it didn't take Harrison Fields to let my friends know what the conservative message was. It took Charlie Kirk. And he took that, that method, that way of executing the conservative agenda to millions of people. Undoubtedly, the president talked about it too. He helped the president get back into the White House. Look at Arizona. Look at what he was doing. And look at what he was prepared to do. This was one stop, the first stop of many of this cycle of college tours. And because of his impact, they don't kill people that don't have an impact. Because of his impact, because of what the other side, and I'm not speaking directly to the Democratic Party, but for the sinister demonic people on the of the other side, let's just say it that way, they knew he was a threat, and they took him out. And we're worse for it as a country.
Are you saying that specifically or generally? They, Democratic Party, demonic people? Because we don't know anything or very much about the perpetrator.
Right. But the thing about it, and this is why I like having on the conversations, and I appreciate you having me on, we've got to be real about what this moment is. You have someone that doesn't espouse the values of Charlie Kirk. Let's just be real. This is not a conservative who committed this crime. It would be a disservice to the viewers for me to come here and try to be like, well, we don't know the facts. That is true. We don't know the facts. But one thing we can say, this person didn't like Charlie Kirk. This person wasn't a conservative. This person probably wasn't a Christian. He hated everything Charlie Kirk stood for. That is a problem. We should be able to engage in dialogue like the one we're having now without feeling like that could be a death sentence. Listen, like I said earlier, I have a 1-year-old, almost 1-year-old. She doesn't know what her dad does. I have a somewhat public platform. Right. Going to work every single day, leaving CBS after here should not be a death sentence. No, it should not. Because of my conservative views. For you or for me. Or you. And we need to get back to a place in America where we can disagree. Listen, my sister is completely opposite of me. Politically. Politically. Bernie, she wants Zohran Mamdani to get elected in New York City. And I'm the complete opposite. But when I look at this, and why can't we just... And you're still a cohesive family. Still a cohesive family. And the point I was about to make is, why can't we just make it the Thanksgiving dinner table. It's messy. It gets complicated. Someone may get up out of the table, but at the end of the day, you're around the family table. Why can't we get back to that family table of the United States of America, where Uncle Bob is going to be very different than Aunt Karen, and my mom is going to be very different than her siblings. But at the end of the day, we all share the same identity, the same blood, which is red, white, and blue. We need to get back there.
Harrison Fields, I appreciate you coming in very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Charlie Kirk, influential among young conservatives. He didn't just rally them, he made sure they showed up at the polls. Next, we talk to student voters who give their thoughts on what he meant in their lives, politically and otherwise. That's next, right here on The Takeout. Welcome back to The Takeout. As we've been discussing, Charlie Kirk's motivation in politics was to bring young people into the dialogue and to become more politically active than they otherwise would be. And he did that through an organization called Turning Point USA, a group he founded while a college student in 2012. As you might have heard, Charlie never finished college, but that group he founded now has more than 800 chapters on college campuses and more than 1,000 high school groups. When Charlie Kirk was fatally shot at Utah Valley University, he was engaged in one of his, quote, prove me wrong, unquote, debates in which he invites others in the audience to challenge his point of view in a face-to-face format. Here is but one example of how that played out.
You don't have a right to murder another human being.
It's not necessarily a right. It's just the ability to be.
So when your brother was in your mom's womb, was your brother a human being?
I mean, I don't want to argue that. I think that we could argue
it's not an argument. It's a question. When your brother was in,
useful.
When your brother was in the womb, was it a human being?
I believe that on my moral compass, I believe that he was.
Joining me now, Dylan Burns, Stella Ross, and Christian Martin. Dylan is president of the Indiana University's Republican Club. Stella is a member of that club. They are on the Zoom together. Christian is the vice president of the University of Alabama's Democratic Club. He's in his own Zoom box. And I have been assured by Dylan and Stella they will not gang up on Christian in our conversation. Want to clear that up at the top. Dylan, I want to start with you. What did Charlie Kirk mean to you politically, personally?
Absolutely. Charlie wasn't just a leader to me. He was somebody who impacted the lives of countless individuals and inspired an entire generation of young conservatives like myself and Stella that are really trying to work to advance the movement of young conservatives and bring his message to the masses. And I want to say that our hearts and our sorrows are with Charlie and his family during this time as we all grieve together.
Stella, as you know, there are lots of voices out there. What made Charlie special and important to you?
Charlie was doing things that other Republicans weren't. He was going on to college campuses and he was engaging with our generation specifically. And he's what really moved the vote in the 2024 election. And we saw that from the polling data. Charlie came on to college campuses and he had civil discourse with us as students and inspired a generation to get out, and speak our minds.
Christian, I want to turn to you. You went to a Charlie Kirk event. Tell me what your reflections were on that event and your thoughts today.
Well, I have to say, I could see the effectiveness of Mr. Kirk. This was when I was a senior in high school. He came to the university because I'm from Northport, Alabama, which is a suburb of Tuscaloosa where we're located. But I could see where Mr. Kirk was really doing a great job of drawing people in, especially young men that might be politically disaffiliated, and how he was very engaging, especially in this modern digital age. I mean, I have profound disagreements with the man, obviously on policy, amongst other things. We could say theology as a fellow Christian, but at the end of the day, he was very skilled at what he did, very convincing, especially in like short form format. And at the end of the day, this is just heartbreaking. You know, there's a woman widowed. There are two small children that saw their father die in front of their eyes. And to quote State Representative, but a candidate for the United States Senate, Mr. James Tallarico of Texas, you know, we might have policy disagreements, but there's a child of God that has passed away in front of our eyes. Sort of to paraphrase him, but it's really a heartbreaking event. in my heart and the hearts of everyone at UA's college Democrats, and I'm sure really the vast majority of everyone across the political spectrum, across this nation and this great republic of ours, really mourn for Mr. Kirk.
Christian, Christian, you're involved in conversations among your friends. And for those friends who heard something from Charlie Kirk, what do you think they heard, and what do you think other Democrats ought to take away from his persuasiveness?
Well, first off, I think we can take away kind of the way we need to engage with young people, because a lot of times I think certain Democrats almost have like without meaning to, almost like a tendency to over intellectualize and kind of preach at instead of talk to people. And I think we can take a lot of that from Mr. Kirk. Also, a lot of my friends on the right, especially like I know fraternity brothers that really engaged with him, just like found him very persuasive in the fact that he kind of almost tried to entertain alongside like persuade, and he was very good at that. He was very good at using kind of emotion to connect with like his viewers and all. So yeah.
Dylan and Stella, I want to throw that question to you now. What in your circles did Charlie Kirk represent, mean, and what was his particular persuasive power?
I think that's a great question. And kind of to touch on what Christian said, the fact that Christian had said that Republicans and Charlie Kirk, he's talking to, I would actually argue that that's what the Democrats were doing. The Democrats were talking to voters. Liberals were talking to voters, telling them what they think they should be hearing. Charlie Kirk, in my opinion, didn't talk to voters. He connected with voters, connected with young individuals like ourselves. And I think that that is what helped him build the base and build the foundation that obviously put him in Turning Point in the spotlight that it was. And because he was connecting with voters, that's why he was so effective. That's why he was able to get on campuses across the country and draw out thousands of supporters across campuses and get them engaged and get them involved in politics.
Stella, if you were to try to explain that difference between to and with in communication, how would you break that down?
He stepped foot on college campuses when other people wouldn't, and he had open dialogue with us as students. And he took each conversation to heart, and he sat there for hours with each student and debated them on their views, heard them out, heard the other side, and he was able to really form that connection with us, which helped form his movement and helped inspire us as young voters.
Stella and Dylan, this is not an easy question to answer. How are you going to carry this forward? What does this awful event mean to you personally in terms of your continued involvement?
I think it's something that we're all still processing, to be completely honest. Seeing somebody so youthful and vigorous taken from us way too soon, a father and a husband, it is unspeakable. And it's the mission of individuals like Stella and myself and conservatives and Republicans across campuses all across this country to realize that while Charlie's voice might have been silenced, this is only a moment for us to be empowered and for us to use our own voice to speak out and support Charlie and his movement.
And having our club on campus allows conservative students here to have a voice and find a place where they can connect with people who share the same values and beliefs as them. And we can help give them a support system. We're all hurting right now, and we extend all of our condolences to Erica and to the Kirk family. I cannot imagine losing a father and losing my husband.
Christian, I want to give you the last word. That's not an easy thing to put on your shoulders, but I want you to either speak to Dylan and Stella or to my audience about what's on your heart.
Yeah, well, first off, I just want to apologize for any misinterpretation. I was saying talking to in kind of like the meaning of connecting with as opposed to like talking at. But beside the point, I just want to say to anyone hurting out there, Republican, Democrat, friend of Charlie Kirk, just bystander that's been kind of traumatized by seeing this event, to the first responders, to the medical personnel, to Mr. Kirk's children, to Mr. Kirk's widow, that I'm praying for you. I've been praying for y'all. I've prayed rosaries, Hail Marys for y'all. My heart goes out to y'all, and my heart grieves for y'all and for this republic, because just like with the Minnesota violence we saw against the Democrats in the state legislature there, this country has no room for violence. And that's how you get with political violence. That's how our republic degenerates into the Weimar Republic or into the fall of the Roman Republic. And so it's heartbreaking and heart-wrenching to watch. And so I just ask everyone to, if you're a praying person, pray. If not, just think about our republic and try to work to engage in dialogue across the aisle in a respectful manner.
Christian Martin, Dylan Burns, Stella Ross, thank you very much for your time. Still to come, the nation pauses to remember the lives lost as well as the lives changed by September 11th and the terrorist attacks that day. Next, here on The Takeout. Welcome back to The Takeout. Charlie Kirk, in his own words.
My name is Charlie Kirk. I run the largest pro-American student organization in the country, Turning Point USA, fighting for the future of our republic. Speaking to you in my personal capacity tonight as a 26-year-old, I see the angst of young people as well as the challenges facing new parents. I am here tonight to tell you, to warn you, that this election is a decision between preserving America as we know it and eliminating everything that we love. Thanks to our work, I talk to a lot of young people on campuses, at our events, on my radio show, podcast, and social media. Said differently, I visit college campuses so you don't have to. I hear a lot from young people about their hopes, their dreams, and their fears. You see, young people are idealists. They respond to vision. For the past 4 years, they've seen the vision of the Biden-Harris regime. That vision is, you'll own nothing and be happy. The Democrats say, instead of owning a home, you'll rent a 400-square-foot studio apartment. Instead of owning a car, you'll rent a scooter using some app. Their vision is this: limit your dreams, give up, aim lower, be content with less. If you're a 20-something in America, life has been really tough. You've watched home prices rise 47% since 2020, 47%. Home ownership is now out of reach unless you make over $106,000 a year. People get ballots in the mail and they don't submit them. My vote doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We need to have a citizen force in the month of October, all of us, to go chase every single ballot in the month of October. And it's going to require all of us. So throughout tonight, as you start getting fired up, if you say, I don't know if I could live under a Kamala Harris presidency, we need to do something about it. We need to go chase the ballots, get in the streets. How we doing, Wisconsin? I was joking around with Don. I thought the election was only a couple months ago, but I guess we're back at it.
Charlie Kirk. As we mentioned at the top of the show, America today also sorrowfully marked the 24th anniversary of 9/11. In New York City, family members and loved ones read the names of the nearly 3,000 people killed at the site of the World Trade Towers. A ceremony was also held in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, in the memory of the passengers and crew killed aboard United Flight 93 and at the Pentagon. President Trump and the First Lady took part in a moment of silence before the president delivered remarks.
In America, we take blows, but we never buckle. We bleed, but we do not bow. And we defy the fear, endure the flames, and emerge from the crucible of every hardship stronger, prouder, and greater than ever before.
Thanks for joining us here at the Takeout.